Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about TTRPGs. First up for TTRPG today, we have, once again, the Dead People team up with Caduceus Clay on it. Not in it, on it. Be worse if he was in it. And inside of that, there we go, we have the Iron Goddess of Mercy. There we go. Wow. Oolong tea from the Spice and Tea Exchange. Once again, great little tea. If you are into oolong, it is going to be very good for you. If you're not so into oolong, you are probably not going to love it all that much because, again, it's very oolong-y. And oolong has a very specific kind of flavor to it. So make that decision for yourself. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. What we are here to talk about today is diving right on back into ink. Again, this is a really cool game that I found on BackerKit that I just kind of backed on a whim because it seemed neat, and then I got it, and I'm very, very excited about it. So let's go ahead and let's crack this bad boy back open. We are talking today about the major concept slash theme slash mechanics, whatever you want to talk about, or whatever you want to call it, within this game. I've once again pulled 3 of them out. It's kind of a running theme at this point, kind of the way that I do this, pull 3 things that I think are very important out, and I touch on them pretty hard real quick. So let's go ahead and let's dive in, and let's talk about the first one here. The first one here is actually going to be your character, your spirit slash shadow. You might be saying, what does that mean? That is what I'm here to tell you about. So when you create a character for this game, you have 2 different facets of the character. You have the spirit and you have the shadow. The spirit is the kind, interactive, socially minded portion of your actual character within the game. It is the one that is going to be at the forefront the most during your time inside of the game, and it is the one that is going to be actually going on the adventure for the most part. Your shadow, on the other hand, is the violent, vindictive, jealous, pained aspect of the spirit. It is always attached to the spirit. You cannot get away from it. However, it is the part of the spirit that will take place, or that will take the forefront during violent combat, or violent conflict, I guess technically. The way that it ends up working out is the spirit interacts with social conflict, social progression, that kind of thing. Spirit interacts with violent conflict, violent progression, that kind of thing. So, what is the difference between these 2 things, other than the fact that they have these 2 different, roles to fill? On the one hand, the spirit, one, can't take any sort of violent actions. As soon as violent actions begin to be taken, you switch over to the shadow. But the spirit can take a lot of beating. It can be beaten down. It can be basically run through over and over again. It is the thing that is going to take the majority of hits if you are attempting to resolve something peacefully, or you are attempting to fix a ship that you're on the ink on, or something like that. That is what you're going to run into with your spirit. With your shadow, on the other hand, this is the thing. It is going to be able to take damage. It is going to be able to have its stamina reduced, that kind of thing. But it is also the thing that is going to actually be able to defend itself. It can just go ahead and unload on other things around it because it is just his animalistic, violent urge. While it can have its stamina reduced all the way down to 0 and technically expire, it is also going to be the one that never backs away from a fight. So at some point, you're going to be wrestling for control between the 2 of them. Important to note, spirits also can make skill checks. Shadows cannot make skill checks, because in order to make a skill check, you need to be focused enough to actually take on that skill. And the other big thing between them that is important here, that is going to be hit on, I think, a decent amount throughout this whole process here. The shadow can only communicate with its own spirit, which means that when you are in shadow mode, when you are in full-blown conflict mode, you cannot talk to the other players around the table to strategize or anything like that. It is exactly what is going on in your own character's head here. You can have the little conversation between you and sort of keep everybody privy to what is going on in your head, but there is no strategy talk to be had because your characters can't actually interact with each other when they are in full-blown shadow mode. So those are the two facets of your character. They are important equally, and you need both of them in order to make it through the ink. But like I said yesterday, ink can be a game where it is like basically a hardcore dungeon crawl kind of thing, where you basically take on the shadow the majority of the time, or it can be something that does not even touch combat, wherein you would be the spirit the vast majority of the time. Up to you, up to how you want to play the game, but that is part of the reason that it actually fills the sort of 5th edition niche really well, because it can be scaled up and down, away or to combat as much as you want it to. So that is your spirit and shadow. Next up, the shards and beacons. The shards and beacons are basically your progression points throughout the game. The way that ink works is you are destined to die many times over. It's kind of built that way, which I think is actually really cool. It's kind of like a roguelike kind of game where like you make progress and then you die and then you respawn elsewhere and that kind of thing. So the beacons are what you use for rest. You are currently dead. You're a ghost. You don't need rest really ever. If your stamina is reduced to 0 via combat or anything like that, then you have the ability to rest up, recharge everything at a beacon. Alternatively, if you come across a beacon, you can go ahead and rest yourself up there. But there is no like long rest, short rest out in the field. So beacons are your checkpoints. They are these floating slivers of light that are just kind of out in the world that you can run into. And you go and you interact with it, and it rests you up, refills you, heals you up, everything like that. Those are your beacons. They are also your respawn points. Beacons serve when you interact with them as checkpoints. So then if you go forward and you die there, you are respawned back at the beacon after a certain amount of time, so that it can regenerate and everything like that. So in that time, you are regenerated there. If the beacon is destroyed, taken down, closed, whatever it is, in the time between when you would respawn and when you don't, when you die, interact with it. There we go. Sorry. Then you go to the one before that you would interact with it. Basically, whatever the most recent one that you interacted with that is still active is where you will be respawning when you go down. So, those are your beacons. Shards, on the other hand, are fragments of other spirits that have been reduced down to just a tiny little sliver of life left. They have basically withered away for so long in the ink that they are no longer able to keep themselves in full form the way that you are. Shards are also what you use to level yourself up. And that is very important in this game where you are going to be dying a lot. And it is extra important because in this game, when you do die, you don't bring all of your stuff with you. All your stuff falls to the ground where you were, and then you get shot back to a beacon. But, important, you get to level up via spending shards. So you are going to be trying to collect as many shards as you possibly can throughout the game. When you, I believe it is go down and die entirely, you also gain 2 shards. It might be when you go down period, but I think it is when you flat out die. And most of your upgrades that you will be buying for yourself cost 2 shards as you go through. Let's see here if we can find it real quick. 2 shards. Yeah. So, yeah, if you fully die and head back, you gain 2 shards immediately. So, that's good because you will always have the ability to at least upgrade yourself a little bit, because most of them cost 2, a couple of them cost 4. You can obviously work with the GM to create more upgrades for you, up to you. But those are your shards and how they interact with the beacons. And finally, we have combat tags. So, we'll talk about it when we get into characters a little bit more, but basically, your character will have stamina. That stamina is mostly linked to your shadow, and so that is basically your health. When your health stamina is reduced to 0, you die, you fly back to the beacon and whatever like that. So, your stamina is your health pool. However, in this game, there's a big emphasis placed also on combat tags. Combat tags being different types of damage that give you different sort of conditions that you are working under. Your combat tags are things like fiery, icy, toxic, terror, sonic, and you will be needing to keep track of them as you go, particularly because they are going to be the biggest way that you are going to be inflicting damage on an enemy, really more than anything else, because they are going to be dealing passive damage, giving them status conditions, that kind of thing. Your attacks will usually do a type of tag. Example, you do 1d6 plus 1 burn. Your burn is the fiery tag, and so you get a burn tag placed on the enemy that you hit with that attack every time you hit them with an attack. If they have less than 5 burn tags at the beginning of a turn, they take 1 burn damage. If they have 5 to 9 burn tags at the beginning of a turn, they take 3 burn damage. And if they have 10 burn tags on them at the beginning of a round, they take 5 burn damage. And what's important about this is that they cap out at 10. So when you get up to that point, you are dealing an extra 5 damage to them automatically at the top of every single round. That's a lot. That's a lot. So your combat tags are going to be super, super important. They have tables in here to tell you exactly how they all work. I just closed the book, but I'm going to just pop it back open real quick. They're super short. They're super easy. They're really, really great resources. And I highly recommend that you are actually checking them out if you are going to be using this book. But that is everything I have for you guys today on the major concepts, themes, game mechanics, that kind of thing for this game. Again, super cool engine. I really like it. Tomorrow when we talk about characters, we'll dive in a little bit more on some of this stuff, but it's just really cool, and I think it's really great. So that is everything I have for you guys today. Thank you so very much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my subscribers. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in supporting the show directly, subscribing is the best way to do it, either on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting platform. Thank you guys so much for everything. But like I said, that is everything I have for you guys. So with all that said, don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play TTRPGs, and keep on rolling.